It's pretty rare these days that we get bold, original sci-fi fare. The fact that Gareth Edwards from Monsters, Godzilla, and Star Wars Rogue One was able to get the creator made on such a grand scale, by Disney no less, through 20th Century Studios, is really something to celebrate. So this takes place in a future world that's been devastated by a war between mankind and AI. Something that hits a little too close to home, right there?
Come on, little Sam, get in the car. Hey, it'll be fun. Like cartoons, it'll be...
In this one anyway, a soldier played by John David Washington is sent to destroy a weapon that has the potential to turn the tide of the war towards the machines. While the creator is not quite the sci-fi masterpiece that some have hailed it as following early screenings, I think it's still one of the better science fiction movies to come along in the last few years, and it really should elevate Edwards' status as one of the best genre directors in the biz. John David Washington has a tailor-made part as the soldier, named Joshua, whose parents were killed in a nuclear blast that was allegedly instigated by the machines against mankind. The blast cost him literally an arm and a leg, but cybernetic implants have made him into a deadly soldier, with the movie kicking off with him embedded in a terrorist cell of humans working with machines. His loyalties are divided because his wife, Gemma Chan's Maya, is one of the leaders of this cell, and she's absolutely loyal to the machines who raised her. She's unaware that he's an undercover agent, and there's a big action sequence that leads to a violent tragedy that leaves Joshua shattered and a shell of his former self. Years later, he's recruited by Allison Janney's tough-as-nails Howell to infiltrate an AI base and destroy a weapon. But when it turns out to be a childlike simulant, which are basically robots with living human faces, he starts to question whether or not he's on the right side.
Whose side you on, huh?
While the premise sounds relatively simple, and not unlike James Cameron's Avatar, it's the execution and the aesthetic that makes the creator such a must-see. Edwards, who works with two directors of photography here, Grieg Fraser and Owen Sofer, has made a lavish-looking science fiction epic, which was shot in 276:1. This is the aspect ratio used in Ben-Hur and by Quentin Tarantino most recently in The Hateful Eight. Incredibly, the film supposedly only cost $80 million, but it is far more technologically sophisticated and expensive looking than the Marvel or DC epics that have cost 3 times as much. Edwards has created a whole world here, with this seemingly being set on an alternate Earth where technology is simply advanced differently. The production design is terrific, with interesting touches that include widescreen TVs that use tube technology rather than LED or LCD. The robots in this film are more human than most of the flesh and blood characters, with the entire film feeling like an allegory for the Vietnam War, with most of it set in Southeast Asia, including many scenes of American soldiers threatening civilians at gunpoint, with a few of the massacres deliberately bringing to mind My Lai and other atrocities from the war. The whole film was apparently shot on location, and boy, can you ever tell. The imagery and what they've captured is absolutely spectacular. The creator also offers John David Washington another strong showcase, with him making Jericho an emotional, relatable lead. While some took issue with his tenor performance, saying he was a little too cold, I think that was by design. He gave Nolan what Nolan wanted. This is another beast, with him much more of an everyman, and the paternal relationship that springs up between him and the robotic child Alfie, played by Madeline Una Voiles, really does give the movie its heart. He's also not presented as a superhero, with the action sequences more modest and down-to-earth than you'd expect in a movie like this, making it feel more like a war film than an all-out actioner. He's well supported by young Una Voiles, who doesn't deliver too precocious of a performance, which is always a fine line with child actors sometimes. Singer Sturgill Simpson has a really nice role as one of Joshua's compatriots, who, again, finds his loyalties similarly divided. Gemma Chan's role is smaller, with her mostly present only at the start of the film or in flashbacks, being more of an idealized figure that drives Washington forward more than anything else. The one who really impresses outside of Washington is Allison Janney, with her hard-as-nails soldier. It is a very strange role for her, but boy, is she ever great in it. And the character really does have a legit reason to despise robots. While the third act turns her into more of a stock character, for much of the film she's surprisingly layered and really proves to be a piece of smart outside-the-box casting by Edwards. My only real problem with the creator is that the script hasn't been as carefully assembled as the visual aspects. Some of the dialogue is quite clunky, and the plot twists, such as the identity of the titular character, are pretty easy to figure out. Their third act also seems rushed, with the movie ending a touch abruptly. The Hans Zimmer score, while very powerful towards the end, isn't given enough of a focus in the first half of the movie, with Edwards using a few too many needle drops, such as Radiohead in one sequence. Like in Godzilla, he also can't help but reference 2001: A Space Odyssey in the final action sequence, which felt extraneous as the movie, up to this point, had done pretty nicely doing its own thing. That said, I really enjoyed The Creator. It's about 130 minutes, it goes by very fast, and I was utterly absorbed by the movie. I thought the performances were great and the visual style was absolutely fantastic. And if this doesn't get nominated for photography and production design and especially visual effects at the Oscars this year, then something's very wrong. I really hope that this movie is a big box office hit because you know what? We need more original content like this. Franchises are fine, but sometimes what you really want is just a good story that's one and done. And by the time The Creator is over, you've gotten a full story. It has a beginning, it has a middle, and it has an end, so you're fully satisfied, which is something that I can't say I felt the last couple big franchise movies that I've seen. All that said, The Creator, despite a couple of flaws, is a must-see, and I give it a strong 8 out of 10.
All right, let's go. Right? Come on.